Hey everyone, Works here. The Retrospective series is done, and today we're going to look back at the videos as a whole. I've had a chance to sort of digest and think about all the rankings that I did, and I want to go through an actual tier list, that's what you're seeing here, and kind of clean some things up. A lot of specs I rated as like high B or low A, and so I wanted to do an expanded tier list to show exactly where those specs fell. Some specs I'm going to move completely because I look back and think that I was maybe too harsh or too lenient on them. So that's what we're going to do today. So these rankings are for the Mythic Plus rankings. So that's what we're going to look at now. So apologize in advance. The rankings are on my second screen, so you're going to see me looking this way a lot to make sure that I'm falling in. And you might see me looking down because it did take some notes on all these specs to make sure that I'm providing the right information. So the first spec we're going to talk about is Subtlety Rogue. I took away the F tier completely, as you can see, so just the D tier. In reality, Subtlety Rogue brought pretty much all the same tools that most rogues did in terms of utility. It's just the damage profile was so bad. From what I gather, though, in kind of reading more and learning more about Rogue, Sub-Rogue was just really undertuned. Numbers just didn't get compensated after the Shuriken combo nerf. So the next spec is Vengeance Demon Hunter. So this is a spec that I was actually pretty harsh on, I think, in the Mythic Plus side of the video. I'm actually moving it up to B- here. So the reason for that is that it was always really serviceable in Mythic Plus. It was Raid where it really kind of tanked a little bit. So the C rating in Raid, I think, is pretty much deserved. In Mythic Plus, though, they at a B-, I think this is a little bit better. Their utility was a lot more serviceable with Sigil of Misery, Sigil of Silence. Those things were a lot more useful, and so to me that bumps up the rate a little bit. And if you were running really high keys, you could push with the Gluttony Vision of Perfection combo that allowed you to get a lot of Metamorphosis uptime inside and outside of your Demon Spike. So it actually gets bumped up to B- there because of that. Those combos were actually a lot more powerful than I gave them credit for. And even if you played more the Spirit Bomb build, you could still run Vision of Perfection and end up getting pretty decent uptime on your Metamorphosis to kind of help out with your natural tankiness. Another spec is going to be another tank spec, and that's Guardian Druid. So Guardian Druid I was really harsh on. I say that more so out of kind of like love, because I am a Guardian player this expansion. I will probably be taking Guardian in as one of my 3 tanks that I prep for next expansion. But for me, Guardian Druid, I'm going to move up here as well as a big mover. I'm going to move it up to B+. Obviously, you saw guys like Tomobor really pushing the highest of keys with it. I think he's the only Guardian Druid that him and Pumps were kind of the 2 biggest Guardian Druid players, pushing the highest possible with keys. But Guardian Druid definitely is the spec that I actually find it easier to tank on for higher keys that I do than I did on my Blood DK. And another thing with Guardian is that its damage was actually a lot better than I actually gave it credit for when you talent something like Brambles versus, say, like Blood Frenzy. I was using the on-demand Bristled Fur for a long time, and then I realized just how bad and awful it actually is for rage generation. And then the defensive capabilities were actually a lot better as well, because I was thinking like Season 3 was pretty bad because of all the magic damage, but even then, like, still like 90% of damage in dungeons is physical damage, and Guardian Druid holds up really well against that damage type. So they're a big mover, moving them up a bunch of steps here to B+. Actually, no, I'm going to move it to B. Give it a B. Slightly better than Blood DK, but I think overall the performance metrics are still pretty much the same. The other Druid spec is moving up 1 step to C tier. Its damage profile was actually a lot better, especially on like fortified weeks where you have longer trash pulls. Its the ability to get Primal Wrath out there was really good, and the utility, actually I overlooked it, which is a shame to say considering I do play a lot of Druid. Battle Res. It brings Battle Res. That's a huge piece of utility for a dungeon group, a Mythic Plus group. So that 1 piece of utility alone, I think, was just enough to kick it up, and kind of reviewing it back, its damage profile was a little bit better than I expected. Alright, now into the C tier, Shadow Priest. Shadow Priest, like I said in the video, you chain pull, and they were great. If you didn't chain pull, they didn't always look as good. I think the representation for Shadow was lower due to the need to pull around the Shadow Priest player, which if you played like a Fire Mage or a Beast Mastery Hunter, even to some extent like a Destruction Warlock, you weren't really seeing that happen at all. But Shadow Priest, if you were able to pull around them, I think looked really good. So I'm going to give them a B-. Their damage profile was actually really intriguing for Mythic Plus, despite the fact that you could cheats and things. Like, I know Newall in one of our keys in Freehold was attacking target dummies in between Trothak and Ludwig, and so he was able to like kind of artificially inflate his numbers, but I thought it was funny. So B- for Shadow Priest, I think they were slightly better than I gave credit for. Destro Lock, I underestimated the power that they had inside Infernal Windows, so they're moving up to a B- as well. Frost Mage, I'm moving them up to B+. Their slows were really that powerful, and I kind of discredited them a little bit in the Mage video, kind of said the spec just kind of existed, but it did have a place in Season 1, where it was very powerful with the slows, and even after the slows got nerfed in sort of middle level keys, I think it was still very valuable to have those slows. And then particularly in weeks like Necrotic, Raging, where you have to do a lot of kiting, it's very useful there as well. They also saw play in Season 4 in the highest keys in one pull in Toldagor. It's the first pull of Toldagor. But hey, they saw play, which is more than they can say for Arcane. So I'm going to move Frost up to B+ here, just to give it a little bit more room here. Frost DK, also moving up. I'm going to give it a B+. One thing I actually did not realize until I was doing research for, I think it was the Arms Warrior video, or the Arms Warrior section, was that Frost DK is actually almost out-representing Unholy DK in Season 4. While the spec isn't necessarily as a powerhouse AoE, its damage profile is a little bit more succinct, and because it doesn't sacrifice a ton of single target damage when you build like a massive Frost Scythe build, it still actually finds a little bit more play than Unholy right now, because you aren't necessarily sacrificing as much on tyrannical weeks, or for example where your boss fights are a little long and you want that little more single target damage. Frost doesn't sacrifice as much as Unholy does to maximize its build, so I find it interesting that they were moving up from pretty low representation most of the expansion just because of what Unholy did. That said, I still put Unholy at S tier. They were just that dominant in really the middle 2 seasons, where double Unholy DK, and even early Season 4 double Unholy DK is quite powerful. Balanced Druid, I think I specifically said Balanced Druid was a high B in the video, so just moving up to reflect that. Same goes for Windwalker Monk. I said low B for them, so I'm just moving them down to make that a little bit more of an accurate reflection. Beast Mastery, I think I even said in the video Beast Mastery is an A+ spec, so we're going to move them up to reflect that. And Holy Paladin here as well is also going to move up to A+. Holy Paladin, I didn't actually fully understand exactly just how much of a representation they had in high keys. And with NG Battle Res being a thing and coming back in Shadowlands, I think that it covered really the only gap that they had in their repertoire, which is where it would be the only reason you wouldn't want to bring a Paladin over, say, like a Resto Druid, or you maybe build a comp that has a DK of some sort in there. So a Holy Paladin moves up. I think this probably changes their overall rating, but we'll do that maybe in another video. Assassination is going to move down here to A-. Still very good, I think, but just I want to make sure that I really show the gap between Assassination and Outlaw for what it did this expansion. So and when I look at it versus, say, these 3 specs right here, which is these 3 specs rather, so Fire Mage, Arms Warrior, Beast Mastery Hunter, it really wasn't on the same level, and so to put it on the same level in this tier list, I don't think is fair. Alright, let's see, any other specs that I feel like I want to move up or down? I don't really think that I do. I feel a little, Paladin. I'm going to move Paladin down to A-. Prop Paladin moving down to A-. So Prop Paladin definitely has its struggles. It's a little bit squishy. Still really well represented. It's still like the second most played tank in Mythic Plus. So from a representation standpoint, it carries it pretty well. But I think overall their average is probably A-. I could even argue maybe like a B tier. So if you look at it, you have Prot Warrior, Brewmaster Monk, and then I think there's a gap with Prop Paladin, Blood DK, Guardian Druid, Vengeance Demon Hunter, all kind of being pretty close. In fact, I'm going to move this down to B+. So I think there's 2 sort of clear tanks that happen this expansion in Brewmaster and Prot Warrior, but then all the other 4 tanks were kind of grouped into this average sort of setting, with Vengeance kind of, to me, being the weakest of the 4 tanks, and Blood getting carried by Season 1, otherwise it probably would be C tier. Outside of that, I think I'm pretty comfortable with the way these specs played, or with these sort of new and updated rankings. There's a couple specs that you can maybe argue shifting up and down, but I feel pretty comfortable with these rankings overall. Feel free to tell me why I'm right or wrong in the comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. It means a lot to me for you guys to kind of join me in this little endeavor that I'm running on, and you kind of get to see my evolution as a video maker as we go. I've never done something like this until I started this channel. If you want to actually watch me play World of Warcraft, come join me on Twitch. I stream there, twitch.tv/works_BAA. Barely above average is what that stands for. I'm there every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights from around 9:30 to midnight Central Time. That's PM in the US. So I think right now I'm 7 hours behind the UK. So I'm up at the ass crack of dawn for you guys. So you Europeans that are up at the ass crack of dawn or in the early morning and looking for something to do, maybe you can come check me out if you want to. Those in the US, you're at degenerate hours with me. Come play with me. Mostly right now I'm just prepping some characters that I'm going to get ready for Shadowlands, so really focusing on my monk, because I'm going to be playing most likely a monk main. I'll do a video on a main once the pre-patch drops, because I want to play some of the changes for blood and for monk. Plus I also do some Mythic Plus keys. Right now we're just kind of doing 8s and 9s because we're kind of slowing down our key pushing for Shadowlands. We're just kind of playing and having fun with different characters right now. Just doing some alt stuff as well, and just trying to have as much fun as possible playing with kind of my guild and building my guild into a raiding guild for Shadowlands. So if you allow me that plug, my guild, Barely Above Average on Ice Crown NA, is recruiting. We're looking to raid Wednesday and Thursday nights from 9:30 to 11:30, maybe even to midnight, depending on how everyone's feeling. We'll be very casual about it. We want to get into heroic raiding, get ahead of the curve for heroic, and we also want to try to get plus 15 keys done for everyone so that we can get those mounts. That way we can kind of maximize our gear and push towards mythic level gear and just try to have a whole bunch of fun doing it. So next video, I'm actually going to do raid rankings. I'll probably record it in the next couple of days, and then I'll try to do a posting up on YouTube in the next few days after that. So until then, everyone, hope you stay safe. Wear your mask, please. Please wear your mask. If you're an American, please go vote in November. Preferably for the guy that I'm voting for, but I won't say that here. But please go vote, make your voice heard. And until then, everyone, I will see you guys next time.